Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again, midweek Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. We got a couple good things to get to today. First off, I want to talk about hand trucks. I love hand trucks. I have 6 of them. But the hand truck I found on my poor man's flea market a couple years ago, this thing was just a favorite of mine because I always left it in the backyard. I never had to put it away. I just left it out. And I use it all the time. I got to bring garbage cans from the front to the back or something. I just throw it on the hand truck. The only thing is that the pneumatic tires were always a problem. I don't know why it is. The pneumatic tires always wind up leaking, and they're always flat when you need it, just like a wheelbarrow tire. So I happened to say I wanted to try and get new tires for this hand truck because I love it so much. And I went on Amazon and I found a couple, and that's where we're going to go. So let's check that out and see what we can do with that right now. Now, here are the old tires. You can see they're kind of cracked up. You can see the max load of 250 pounds at 30 PSI, even though this hand truck is rated for 600 pounds. And you can see here it's rusty. The axle is rusty. It's going to need some. Listen to the tire. So let's bring this stuff downstairs. Okay, now here's the axle. The first thing we're going to do is give it a quick cleaning. Okay, remove the rust from the axle, the washers. These washers are actually hard to replace because they're machine washers, but they're very thin. So I just cleaned them up. We're going to rust proof them or rust resist them. We got new cotter pins, and now we have the wheels that I've been looking for. Now these are foam filled, not for highway use. Foam filled. They don't have any weight restrictions on, or we don't know what they're good for, but I got to tell you this, they feel good. They're soft enough that they'll, perform like a pneumatic tire, but firm enough that I won't have to fill these things up. Now, I don't know. I've never used these before. Maybe some of you guys have had them before. But again, for the price, I couldn't resist it. Again, it comes with the bearings now. Instead of having to grease up the axle and put it on, now these have a nice bearing on it that they'll spin freely on both sides. And I think this will be just what the doctor ordered. Now I came down to test fit the tires, but what I just noticed, I didn't notice before, this has 2 different axle holes, 2 different positions that you could put the axle in. One would be back further, one would bring it more forward. And I have to think about what that would do. Okay, now the washers and also the axle has been rust proofed using acid. You wipe it on, you let it sit for 30 minutes, and then you rinse it off, and then it turns into this kind of grayish, and that is rust proofed, and that's a step you have to do with any kind of bare steel. Now it's ready for paint, but instead of paint, we're going to shellac it because it's quicker. It'll dry in an hour or so. So I'm going to shellac these. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Okay, now all the parts have been shellacked. So they've been rust-proofed. Now they're shellacked. You can see there's a finish on there. Now you could put any kind of paint, scrap paint, anything you have leftover paint on here to protect it. Or you could leave it just as is. And we're going to put it back together. Now while I got the hand truck down here, I'm going to remove all the rust-proof it, and paint this bottom plate. Now you're probably wondering why I'm going through all this problem for a cheap hand truck. These are actually pretty good hand trucks. They're fiberglass and nylon reinforced hand trucks, and lightweight, easy maneuverability. I think they're a good hand truck. Now I was just going to leave this the way it was, but it was raining yesterday, so I just coated it with some black paint that I had, Rust-Oleum enamel brush on, and I actually put this on with a rag, so it's protected now. And let's get it back together. Okay, there we go. All lubricated up. I hope these tires aren't a letdown. I hope they work as good as they seem. So here we go. We have it in the backyard. It's raining now, but there we go. New tires, painted deck, everything, all the rust is gone. It's a nice little hand truck. If you're interested in a hand truck that's a good performer, this is a good one. I have to tell you, as you know, I don't watch the news or anything, but I got an alert on my phone about a possible flood coming in. I looked at the Weather Channel, and they said that today we were supposed to get 4 inches of rain. Now, in my neighborhood where I live, 1 inch of rain is a good soak in, everything. It's good watering plants, but 2 inches of rain, I start to get a little water in the trickling into the basement. 3 inches is pretty much a flood. I'm getting a lot of water up through the sewer and everything. It's, you know, I have to make sure nothing's on the floor down the basement. And then 4 inches, forget it. 4 inches, I got to build a boat, you know. Thank goodness they were like off by 3.5 inches. I don't know what's up with them, but I don't know if it changed, the weather changed, whatever. So I was blessed by that. But you ever get nervous when you watch the weather forecast and you hear something coming and you're like, oh, it's tough. It's tough. You can't just put it in the back of your head and say, forget about it. You start to worry. You start to prepare. You get your sump pump out and you get your plastic out. But thank goodness it passed me by. Did you get hit with any severe weather over this past week other than the heat? And the heat really kicked my butt because they dropped my voltage here down to 106 volts. Everything was dim in the house. 106 volts is not good to run your house on. Here in the States, you need at least 110, at minimum 110, usually 115. And they were giving me one. I called them up. I think I'm going to have to go on an oxygen machine. That's the only way I'll be able to get high current. Okay, next up, while we have some of the paint drying and whatnot, this oil bottle. I got this, picked this up from Pete at the Long Island Tool Museum. It's a nice oil bottle, but it obviously needs to be cleaned up. Let's do that real quick. And we're calling this project done. Nice little cleanup there. Boy, these oil bottles, you know, I have a special spot in my heart for these things, as you know. And look how nice this came out. You can see the glass is all nice and clean and polished it up, you know, glass wax. And look at the top here. Now, the only thing I've found to get this as nice as this came out, and look at this, look, all the way around, is, and it gets any rust spots out, because they do rust sometimes, is the fiber wheel. The fiber wheel is the only thing that I find that can bring this up to such a beautiful sheen and not look cheap and look original, and that's just beautiful. That's a great display piece for upstairs. And in case you're wondering, it does say the Master Manufacturing Company out of Litchfield, Illinois, and it was patented September 14th, 1926. Isn't that something? Now, my buddy Anthony and I were wondering, it says it's a 1 quart. It says 1 liquid quart, and it says fill to line. I don't know if you could see that there. If you could see that, it's embossed in the glass, and there's a little arrow right there. You see that arrow right there? Right there. And it goes right to this line. So right at that line is 1 liquid quart. Now, you might remember last week we celebrated our 250th celebration of Independence Day here in New York, and the Statue of Liberty was a big part of that because it's such an iconic part of the United States. It was gifted to us from France in 1884, and you could see they had to disassemble it. It took a couple of years to get it over here. Actually, 350 pieces it was disassembled, and then they shipped it in 214 crates to get it over here and put it together. And then eventually, in 1886, it was erected on the pedestal. But my question to you is, this is what the designer wanted it to look like. It was a copper sheathing over the statue, but it looked probably a little bit more like this by the time it got up. It was a little bit tarnished, but through the years, you could see here the years on the top. 1891, it was getting darker. 1896, even darker. And then it started to pick up that green hue that we know now. And my question to you is, if you could see it back in the copper, I know the patina boys wouldn't be happy about it, but would you like to see it looking like the original once again? Okay, last up, I got a funny story for you. My girlfriend said she was going to throw this cord out, and I said, well, what's wrong with it? And she said, well, this is what was wrong with it. Can you see here? The prong is missing from the plug. You see that? So it's a heavy-duty cord. I said, how could you throw this out? And she said, well, I don't trust. I said, I could put a new end on it. She don't trust. She don't trust anything with electricity. That's my win right there. I mean, if you're not going to trust me, let me show you. Everybody should know how to replace one end of the cord or another. So let me show you what we're going to do and show you why this is such a great cord to save. Now the first thing you're going to need is a replacement plug. This is a Leviton, and this is a decent entry level, not too expensive plug here. And this one here has the combination screws that you could use, a Phillips, a flat screwdriver, or you can use the Roberts in the middle. And this here, the Roberts has a square tip here. Sorry about that. It has a square tip, and you can see it fits nicely in there and snug. So when you take this apart, you'll see this is what it looks like on the inside. And this clamps around the cord. It's made, again, for heavy-duty use. A good one, especially if you have a good cord like this. Now, I cut off about 4 inches off the end. Remember, this was broken. And you could take a look at the line. You see, that's copper, and it's pretty thick. It's a nice cord. So I like to practice on this before I go to put this on. And I'll show you what I mean by practice. The first thing you want to do is cut the outer sheath here to expose the only way to do it really is to, the way I find best, is to just score it lightly, run it around your utility knife. And they do have special tools to do this, but, you know, if you're going to invest it. You see, we're just starting to, see that? We just broke it. Now you work your way around it like this, and it will open up on its own. So take that, you see how I'm doing that? Break that open, and sometimes you might have to give it another little touch, but don't go too deep because you don't want to nick those wires. And then we'll pull off. Now that we pulled off the outer casing, and again, this is the practice part because we have this here. You'll see there are some cords here. You're going to pull these cords aside and cut them off, get them close to the jacket because you don't want them interfering. So this is the cord. That gives you the strength, the pull strength, if you're going to pull on the extension cord. It's very thick. So let's cut them off. To cut these off, I just pull them to the side here and use a diagonal cutter and just snip it off here, okay? Now we're going to strip these 3 wires, okay? And we're going to strip these back, and I'm going to show you because on here, on this plug, you could see this is the wire can go in either side and you tighten it. I never like to do that because it cocks this little piece here that holds the wire in. So what I like to do is split the wire and put the split wire in there. And this way you have equal force pushing it down. You get a much tighter, and I'll show you what I mean. Now you can use any type of wire stripper you like. I like to use this. About 3/8 of an inch. We'll strip off here. Okay. And then what you're going to do, don't twist them. Normally you twist this before you pull it off. Don't twist them this time. Now you're left with 3 strands here, like that. Okay, separate them like this. And then what you're going to do is we're going to split it down the middle. And this is, like I said, what I like to do, because split it down the middle, making sure you get equal amounts of wire on each side, like that. And then we're going to twist those. Okay, now this is what you want to do here. You want to get it into a little, like a fork, okay? Like a snake's tongue there. Get into a fork, and then what you're going to do, whenever you have on your connector here, the brass is always the hot, that's the black one. The silver is the white one, and the green one is the ground. Very easy to do. So we're going to take the black one, put it in the brass, and you'll see what happens. You see that little piece of metal opens up here. You're going to put that in here like that. See how it separates in there? And now when you squeeze down on this, when you tighten this up, again, this is the practice one that I'm showing. When you tighten up on here, I want to show you what happens. And I'm not going to tighten it a lot, but you see now we have, when that's tight on there, that is equal pressure, and that's not going anywhere. You'll never be able to, but if you put on one side, it cocks that top thing over. So that's the way I like to do it. And then you just connect this one here and then the ground to ground and do one at a time. And remember, the most important thing is make sure you put this on first before you do any of this. So now we did this on the practice one. Let's do it on the real one. Okay, you could see all the wires have been placed in there. It's tightened down. You got to tighten it down as hard as you can. Don't be afraid. You're not going to strip it out. Nice and tight. Now we're going to slip this down. This can only go one way. It only lines up one way because there's this notch here. That notch has to go into that notch there in the bottom. That one, you see it? So once we push that straight in, it'll line up. and then you just tighten these 3 screws. Once these 3 screws are tight, now you just tighten down this clamp here, and it'll clamp down onto the outer jacket here. Once you tighten it down, it'll squeeze it tight there, but remember there's cordage and everything to stop it from being damaged, but that's on there tight. That's not going anywhere now. And now all we have to do is clean it and test. Okay, we cleaned the entire cord with the tub of towels. You can see here, we looked up the rating. It is a SJTW, that stands for, it's a thermoplastic. It's a 300 volt cord. It's a good cord. A 12.3, it's good for 15 amps. What do we got there? We got UL listed, of course. There's the UL listed number. VW1, that's vertical fire. That's how the flames will travel up. That's a good rating. The CSA is Canada, and that's their fire rating, FT2. But this is a really good cord. Now, when going through it, the only thing I could find was this little here abrasion. And you can see here, it just went through the jacket. It didn't go nowhere near the wire. But see, that's a crack in there. So in order to seal that, the best way to do it is to wipe this area down here with isopropyl alcohol and just run a bead of electrical tape over that so that no water can get in there if you're using it outdoors, because it hasn't nicked any of the wires. So it's just the outer case. Okay, here we go. Now this isn't the kind of extension cord you'd run if you want to run a radio in the backyard. This is if you want to run your compressor. This is a heavy duty cord. I'm plugging it in now. I'm going to test it out. Now I have my tester here. Remember, these 2 lights should go on if it's correct. And there we go. It's correct. These 2 lights are on, and that means that it's good. So there we go. A nice cord, a real nice cord. And this is something everybody should know, because you toss something like this away, it's just wasted money. Now, just to hang my extension cords, what I do is I take a loop of cotton rope here, and what I do is I just pass it under here like this, and then pass this through here. And then I just hang this up like this onto a hook. Okay, so in closing, we were all over the place today, weren't we? And let me tell you, if you're like me, you can't pass by a good extension cord at a garage sale or something, but there's lots of the cheap junk ones, the ones that are only good for running a radio or something. But when you find a good heavy-duty, thick extension cord for $5 at a garage sale, you know, like me, you have to buy it. And you can't have too many extension cords. If ever you have a problem or you have to do some work outside, you see how quickly a good extension cord comes in handy. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.